My name is John Hollway. I'm the executive director here at the Quattrone Center for the Fair Administration of Justice. On behalf of Penn Law Dean Ted Ruger, my colleague and partner in crime, as it were, Paul Heaton, the academic director, the fellows of the Quattrone Center, and my colleagues at Penn Law, it's my great pleasure to invite you here, to welcome you here to our 4th annual Spring Symposium entitled Common Ground on Preventing Errors in Criminal Justice. The Quattrone Center was founded in 2013 with the mission of being a research and policy hub to generate interdisciplinary, data-driven scholarship that would shine a light on the deepest problems in the criminal justice system. And we do that by pursuing what we call a systems approach to preventing errors in criminal justice. When we talk about a systems approach, what we mean is we don't look at the criminal justice system the way most lawyers typically do, which is on an individualized case-by-case basis. But rather, we take a step back and look at criminal justice as a system and ask whether the system is working in the way that it's designed to work. And we focus on where the errors are in criminal justice and what actions we can take, not to remediate past errors, but to learn from them and use that knowledge to prevent errors in the future. And the errors predominantly that we focus on are inaccurate decisions of guilt or innocence, and in other words, not getting it right on guilt and innocence, or situations in which similarly situated individuals receive disparate treatment or disparate outcomes in the criminal justice system. So I think it's worth, in a symposium that is talking about common ground, I think it's worth establishing the sort of philosophical common ground that we're all starting from. And when the systems approach for me is very useful because it helps remind me what we're supposed to be doing, and the fact that while it's an adversarial system and we may have adversarial goals in individual roles, the overarching nature of criminal justice is actually very unifying, and we all share the same ultimate goal. The ultimate goal of the criminal justice system has to be to reduce crime over time. It has to be get the right guy in the right way and then do something useful with that individual that will cause that individual and other similar individuals not to commit crimes in the future. And whatever we might talk about what is or should be a crime, that overarching goal of reducing crime should be a unifying thesis to what we do. Once we have that unifying thesis, we may disagree about what makes for a useful intervention or how we need to achieve that goal, but we can start from the foundation of the common goal of reducing crime by getting the right guy in ways that respect our constitutional freedoms and ensuring that what we then do is something useful to reduce crime in the future. Now, the problems that we have are actually shared by all of us, which is our criminal justice system is not operating at optimal efficiency. Okay? Too often, we get the wrong guy. Too often, we fail to get the right guy. When we do get the right guy in the right way, I think what we're increasingly learning is that we need to have more diverse interventions, more useful interventions to ensure that we're reducing crime in the future, and that many of the interventions we've been using don't serve that goal. And worse, there are far too many times when we don't actually know at the time, did we get the right guy? Have we done it in the right way? And we don't know if our interventions have been useful. Now, there are 2,018 exonerees as of this morning listed in the National Registry of Exonerations. They've lost 17,610 years of their lives because we didn't get it right. We didn't do the right thing, get the right guy in the right way. And for all of the talk about partisan politics and how a new Republican president and a new federal administration is going to change the way we deal with criminal justice reform, the fact is that those 2,018 people are across the political spectrum. This is a nonpartisan, bipartisan, multipartisan, whatever you want to call it, issue. The people that are affected by crime are all of us, regardless of our political persuasions, regardless of our professional roles in the system. I can guarantee you that the 21,587 people that the state of Massachusetts dismissed their drug convictions for yesterday as a result of a single crime analyst making up drug test results were not just Tea Partiers and were not just Green Partiers. Okay, they were just partiers. The point is, these errors have no party, and the people throughout the system, regardless of their roles, do want to get it right, and we have common ground on that. So part of the reason we decided to call this common ground is that since November, it feels like every symposium, every panel, every conversation that I've seen has been about what do we do now in this polarized political environment? How will we move forward in this new regime? And we wanted to have a conversation that reminded us that in fact we do all share the same goal of improving the criminal justice system. Now, in fact, the federal government controls about 10% of the criminal justice system in terms of people that are charged and incarcerated with crime. So I think it can be overblown what the federal administration is going to do to impact criminal justice in our country. It's certainly important, but the fact of the matter is we have the same divisions and the same concerns at our state and local level that we have at the federal level, and all of us need to engage on how to fix those problems. In our mission statement, the Quattrone Center refers to ourselves as a research and policy hub. And that word hub was very important and something that we made sure to include in it, because a hub sits at the center of a circle and takes people who might be on opposite sides of that circle and brings them together in a convening to talk about the issues of the day, with the goals being real-world progress. And so as we talk today, we want to understand how the system's actually working, compare it to how it ought to work, and find dialogue and common understandings that will give us a starting point for future conversation. Last week I took my students, I teach a course on conviction integrity here, and last week I took my students for a field trip to the Red Hook Community Court in Red Hook in Brooklyn. And the Red Hook Community Court is a working court that deals primarily with misdemeanors and low-level violent convictions in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood that has been downtrodden and below the poverty line, and whose largest housing feature is an enormous housing project. And so they've brought some really revolutionary concepts of restorative justice and procedural justice to Brooklyn, and they're really doing some pretty astonishing things. Now, I don't know how many of you know about procedural justice, but the whole concept of procedural justice is these two absolutely unbelievably revolutionary concepts. The first one is that judges and lawyers should listen to their clients. And the second one is that courts should treat people with dignity and respect. And it's sort of astonishing that when you take the courtroom out of an assembly line and you actually give judges time to read the files, understand what's really going on with the individuals that appear before them, and treat them with dignity and respect, you may not change the outcomes of those people's cases, but you change the way those people engage with the criminal justice system. And I asked Judge Calabrese, the judge who runs this court, what's your rate of failure to appear? And he said, our rate of failure to appear is next to nothing, because people know that we're not out to get them. They know that we're here trying to help them, and we engage with them with their problems with dignity and respect. And so they're not afraid to come appear before us, even if they failed a drug test that was court mandated. And so the idea that stopping and listening and then engaging with respect, even when you have differing views, may not change the outcome, but changes the ability that you have to continue the conversation, is one that really struck me there and that I'd like to make sure we engage with here. And the other thing that Red Hook does is they have what they call peacemaker circles, and they bring concepts from actually the Navajo American Indian tribe for dispute resolution. And they bring people who have committed crimes and the victims of those crimes together with other members of the community in a peacemaking circle, and use this structure to resolve their disputes and build community ties that will bring those people closer together instead of allowing those fractures to continue. We met with a woman named Jackie who runs one of the peacemaking circles, and she said, at every circle we literally break bread. There is some food involved in every one of these circles, because the food leads to small talk, and the small talk leads to a shared activity. And the act of participating in a shared activity leads to a baseline of trust and engagement. And she said, trust and mutual engagement is the foundation of change. And I thought, now I've got my hook for my opening remarks. Because the adversarial system is actually a trust system. It's actually a system in which we say, we're going to have people take different viewpoints on purpose, and we're going to compare those viewpoints, and we're going to trust each other to do that openly and honestly, because it's that shared engagement and that shared dialogue of competing ideas that's actually the only way we've ever made progress in our society. We have so many different viewpoints, so many different perspectives, so many different motivations, that it's that clash of ideas that advances things in our society. In science, we call that clash of ideas peer review or validation, and it's going to be one of the topics of one of our forums later on today. But whether we call it peer review, whether we call it the adversarial system, whether we call it the marketplace of ideas, the only way we've ever found as a society to move forward is to bring people together, listen to each other with dignity and respect, outline where we agree, and figure out where to go from there. And that engagement and pressure testing are what's required for us to figure out how to move forward. So to do that, we've got a really amazing list of speakers for the next 2 days. We've brought them from all parts of the ideological spectrum, from all parts of the political spectrum, from all aspects of the criminal justice system. And we'll talk about that foundation, that common ground, the areas where we agree, to use that then as a jumping off point for where we go from here. Today, we're going to talk about money bail, the validation of forensic disciplines, and improving eyewitness identification. And in true peacemaker circle fashion, we'll break bread at the end of the day. We're actually breaking flour tortillas this morning, and we will have a reception at the end of the day for more conversation. Tomorrow, conviction review units, funding for indigent defense. We'll break bread at lunch together, and then have a conversation on criminal discovery and Brady versus Maryland. So here's what we need from you guys. This is a conversation about common ground. And the common ground that we have is that whatever your viewpoints on the issues that we're going to talk about, everybody's here because they want to improve the criminal justice system. So let's start there with our baseline, and let's realize that we're going to have contentious conversations. We're going to look at each other as adversaries. But the fact that we may inhabit adversarial roles does not mean that as people we are adversaries. What we're doing is we're engaging in a time-honored process of sharing our ideas, learning from each other, and figuring out how to adapt our ideas so that they can mold into the structure of a productive system that's going to get the right guy in the right way and do something useful to reduce crime for all of us over time. Now, just so that you know, we are recording both video and web streaming. We are using the Twitter. And so the hashtag that we'd ask that you use is hashtag QC Common Ground. We will have panels, and we will have a group of profiles in innovation for individuals that will be giving presentations on forward-looking things that are already building on the common ground that we have and moving us forward. And if you have questions for our panelists, we have mic stands in the back, and at the end of each panel, we'll leave time for those questions to happen. And other than that, if you need anything, we have a team of really fabulous people in the faculty support department that are here and outside and will help you with anything that you need. And we'd like to get started. I would like to do two things. First of all, bless you, I'd like to acknowledge Frank Quattrone and his wife Denise Foderaro, Frank Quattrone and his wife Denise Foderaro, sorry, apparently not. Who obviously created the foundational gift that allowed the Quattrone Center to come into being, and we're in debt to you for your generosity and your passion on these issues. Also, yes, thank you. And also, I'd like to introduce Penn Law Dean Ted Ruger to give some welcoming remarks, and then we'll get started with our first panel.
Thanks. Thank you, John. And this is a tremendous substantive day we have ahead of us, so I'll be extremely brief and really just want to echo some of the themes that John said. This is, at Penn Law, we have a few kind of core principles. We want to engage with the most important issues of our day, and we want to do so in a way that crosses disciplines, yes, with all the legal rigor and lawyerly kind of skills that we do have here and train our students in and engage with, but building on the great strength of this great research university, looking at cognate fields like economics, criminology, healthcare, politics, many other fields. We think that legal reform and impactful legal change is given power by cross-disciplinary research and expertise. And so both the Quattrone Center generally and the group that's assembled today really embodies that, and it's a tremendous agenda we have ahead of us. We also, when we think about impact, when we think about the issues we want this great law school to be involved with, we live in a time that is often described as increasingly partisan, increasingly divided or divisive. That's a challenge for policy change. We're well aware of that across many areas. What's remarkable to me when I think about criminal justice reform, and and I think about, say, when I was in law school over 20 years ago, it's the one issue that I think has become less bitterly partisan divided. There is a new embrace of the notion that our system is broken, our system is amenable to fix in the criminal justice system that really does cross the aisle. So this is a moment when people can come together and work hard through the auspices of a center like the Quattrone Center and really achieve policy change. And so many of you in this room embody that philosophy, and sort of our agenda today embodies that. So we'll get to that in a minute. And I do just want to close by thanking Frank and Denise for their vision and their support, thanking the tremendous leadership we have here, John Hollway and Paul Heaton. The center has really taken off in its research scope, in its momentum, and it's a credit to the work that they do. This law school is committed to the work of the center and to criminal justice reform generally. As I'm popping in and out today, one of my jobs today is we're in negotiations to bring more star faculty in the criminal justice system reform area. We've got an offer out to somebody who's we think could really add value to this already strong center. So we're committed to building in this area. We're so glad that you're all here, and with no further ado, we'll get to the agenda. Thank you.